So I knew going into this, it was gonna be a tearjerker. I told myself I'm gonna tough it out, I'm gonna be fine, and then sure enough, when the emotional shit hit, I got emotional. Something I didn't expect was how hungry I would get while I was watching this.
What the fuck is on my forehead? How did I get that? I don't have it now, do I? No, it's gone now. I don't know what that is. Your guess is as good as mine.
Just a little PSA, for sure bring tissues, but also don't go on an empty stomach. Okay, Brendan Fraser plays an obese man that refuses to go to the hospital with the little time that he has left. And with that little time that he has left in this world, he wants to reconnect with his daughter that he abandoned years ago. That's the basics. Brendan Fraser as Charlie. What can I say that hasn't already been said? This is a performance of a lifetime, and he deserves all the credit that he's getting for it.
I need to know that I have done one thing right with my life.
I really hope that he gets an Oscar for this one. He's earned it. Charlie is a man full of grief and regret, and food is the only thing in his life that physically brings him comfort. He has this overly positive outlook on people in life, and even though he's done some things that he isn't proud of, he's trying to fix them now. His best friend Liz, she happens to be a nurse. She was my favorite character, and that's because she wants the best for Charlie even though he doesn't take care of himself. As the story moves on, we see how her character is associated with him on a deeper level, and that's pretty sad in its own way. What I find interesting about her is she's probably kept Charlie alive for longer than he should be, but she also is an enabler of his eating. She knows that food is killing him, but she's also aware that food is the only thing that brings him comfort. Charlie's daughter is played by Sadie Sink. You might know her from Stranger Things. This is also the best performance that I've seen from her. She's a rebellious teenager that is angry with her father for abandoning her when she was 8 years old. Now all of a sudden, Charlie has reached out. Understandably, she wants answers. There's another character in this I'm kind of on the fence about. I'll chat about him later, alright? I think The Whale is a wonderful movie. It's absolutely wonderful. Darren Aronofsky, the director, he's the king of one and dones. And when I say that, here's what I'm talking about. Every time I watch something that he directs, I go, yep, that was amazing, and I never need to watch it again. One time is more than enough. And I think that's because he's such a good director that he brings me to an emotional place that's hard to get me to. And then while I'm in that emotional state, he breaks me. Requiem for a Dream broke me. Black Swan broke me. Mother broke me. And sure enough, The Whale fucking broke me. I've said it before, the highest compliment I can pay a movie is if it makes me feel something. And by the end, I got the feels. I got the big time feels. Usually the path to get me to feeling the feels is by creating great characters. And this had them. The characters are great, and there's only a handful of them. And each one has their own issues, their own weight to bear, if you will. And each character is also vastly different. You take all that, you mix and match conversations with good dialogue, and you've got yourself a compelling story. This is a great example of why I love character-driven stories. If your characters are written well enough, it doesn't matter what setting you put them in, they'll still connect with the audience. This whole movie takes place in a fat guy's apartment, and I didn't give a shit because every single conversation happening had my full attention. The storytelling itself is almost played out in reverse. The setting we start out in takes place as a result of all this shit that's gone down in the past. We are at the conclusion in the beginning. Now we get to see these characters introduced and learn what happened through very well thought out dialogue and conversations. And as they're filling out the gaps, answering these questions you have, this is how you learn who these people are. It's a very intriguing way to tell a story, and I was all for it. And by the time everything falls into place, that's when the waterworks hit. Not to mention the acting is fantastic. Every actor gave their absolute best, and I felt that. There is one character in this that was just a little too far-fetched for me. He's a missionary from a local church cult. And he has his own character arc dealing with that. I understand the purpose of this character, and the conversations that he brought up involving religious views were absolutely necessary and important. But his overall journey was just a little too fabricated for me. As his backstory is kind of laid out there, I'm like, really though? Whatever. Another slight issue I had was this thing was filmed at a very tight, square aspect ratio. I like what Darren did with it, and his cinematography is great. But it does take time for me to adjust to that type of aspect ratio. We live in a world of widescreen and big special effects. To go from Avatar to The Whale was a big adjustment for me, and I was a little distracted by it. But once I was used to it, it was totally fine. It just took some time to adjust. I think this is a great movie to see. There are so many layers to it, and every single layer is meaningful. The way that grief leads into mental illness and how that manifests into an eating disorder is broken down so well within a single character. And he cares so much for everyone else except himself. It's heartbreaking. Sometimes we need movies like this to show us an interesting perspective, make us think different, make us sad, and mostly make us hungry as fuck. See ya! Subscribe! So there's a scene where Charlie's struggling with food and he's tempted by some candy in a drawer, and ultimately he breaks down and just starts chowing down on these candy bars. It is sad to watch, but it's sad to see this character that you're growing to love break down and just stuff his face with candy bars. And I'm sitting there like, wow, Three Musketeers, huh? He really must hate himself.